What's up, my fellow Harmonic traders? Welcome back to Track the Harmonic, your ultimate destination for all things Harmonic technical analysis. I'm your host, Lord MC, and in today's video, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of Harmonic technical analysis. But before we embark on this Harmonic journey, let's take a moment to discuss what's on the horizon for the financial markets. This coming week, we have some crucial economic data releases that can have a significant impact on our own trading decisions. We're talking about the Producer Price Index, Consumer Price Index, and the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. Now, you might be wondering what these numbers even mean and why we should care. Well, these economic indicators can provide us with essential insights into the health of the economy and can help us make more informed trading decisions. Up first, we have the Producer Price Index, better known as PPI. That gives us a glimpse into the cost of production for businesses. So when PPI rises, it may indicate that businesses are facing increased input costs, potentially leading to higher consumer prices down the road. On the other hand, the Consumer Price Index, better known as CPI, that measures changes in the average price consumers pay for a basket of goods and services. So a rising CPI can suggest that consumer prices are increasing, which can impact purchasing power and influence the central bank's decision on interest rates. Lastly, we do have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. That reflects consumer sentiment and expectations. So think of it as a collective emotional pulse for the consumers in the economy. So a high reading often indicates optimism, which can translate to increased consumer spending. Lastly, a topic that sadly is we have to talk about because it could also have implications within the market, and that is obviously what we had with what's going on with Israel and Hamas right now, unfortunately. So definitely keep an eye out on that as things develop. So before we get into the charts, I want to preface by saying I am not a financial advisor. None of the things I say in my videos are financial advice, so question everything, do your own research, and come out with your own conclusions. So having said that, let's jump right into the charts. Jumping over to SPY here. So the market had a very interesting close on Friday as it had a lot of volume come in and basically pushed all day. So what can we expect here for SPY? It did generate a bullish crab pattern on Tuesday, where it's setting up right now for a potential type 1 reaction to target 1 at 432.97. So what can we expect here to the upside if there's more continuation? Let me bring up my drawings and some of my indicators here. So to the upside, the next level I'd be looking at to complete the type 1 reaction, like I said, would be 432.97. Obviously, above that, you want a gap fill there around 438 and complete the type 1 reaction potentially to finish that scalper's dream, target 2 at 440.88. Obviously, with what the news we got over the weekend, there may be some uncertainty as well as the data that we're going to get. There may be some uncertainty, some fear back in the market. So if this level here, this trend line that you see here is from the 2009 lows, we bring that trend line up to the most recent touch points here. You can see that over here back in September, we lost that level, and then it managed to try to close above but failed. So Friday, you did close above it, but if there isn't, like I said, fear and uncertainty back in the market with this week, you could come back down to test 427.39 to the downside. Obviously, the 200 EMA there around 425 and change, and losing that, obviously, you would come down for a fifth shot at testing 420 here at XA. Obviously, below that, failed that where the 200 SMA is at as well. You can come down to hop there at 411.32. So definitely keep an eye out on SPY to see if there's more upside or we have some fear back again in the markets. If we go over to the weekly here, the weekly, you did generate a hammer candle on the downtrend. So this is by definition a reversal candle. So for this week, if this is going to reverse, you definitely want to see a close above this candle here. So with also similar volume, obviously if there's decrease in volume, you can assume that there is possibly consolidation incoming or something else is going on. So definitely keep an eye on the SPY. Jumping over to the triple Qs here. So the triple Qs had a very bullish close, like I said, just like SPY. With this one here, though, you have a bullish engulfing candle engulfing Thursday's close. So what can we expect here harmonically for the triple Qs off the dragon pattern? You didn't really come down to test PT1 at 347.61, so the next level to the upside targets would be at 368.08 to test the 50 SMA. Above that, you have 377.10, which would be kind of bullish again for the triple Qs. As you could tell, we came back here in July, we broke above it, and you went straight up to test that 386 and change level to 387.98, the highs there. You got rejected, and then obviously had some chop there. We managed to try to hold above it, and then failed in August. And then up until the most recent point, late in August and September, this has been a level of resistance for the triple Qs as it has not managed to close above it. So the MACD is indicating that a potential shift is happening here, but I do definitely want to see higher highs and higher lows, right? Because that will give more confirmation that the that the momentum is shifting. So you could come back and get rejected here all the way down to 356. Obviously below that you might complete the type 1 reaction to PT1 here at 347.61. So definitely keep an eye out on the triple Qs to see if this is actually going to break the downtrend. It looks like if we take a fib retracement tool from the highs, most recent highs here, to the most recent low, we're currently testing the 50% retracement of the wave. So this is very key level here right now to see. In my opinion, right now you did test the 50% retracement, which is basically you're testing 50% of that that move to the downside, right? So you gave up 50% of the move, and if you really want to shift the momentum, you definitely want to close above it, the 618, to confirm that, and high, and or even higher. So off of the weekly real quick, if we go to the weekly, you did generate an indecision candle and you had an HSI dot off of increased volume. So the EMAs on the Qs definitely looks like it's flatlining and maybe curling up, but we'll have to wait and see, especially with what's going on in the data. We definitely have to keep a close eye on the triple Qs and the market in general to see if there's going to be more upside. So keep an eye out on the triple Qs. Jumping over to the Dow Jones here. So the Dow Jones did generate a bat pattern, I believe on Wednesday or Tuesday, where right now it looks like it potentially going for that type 1 reaction just like SPY. It did generate an HSI dot on Thursday, and you had follow through on Friday with higher volume. So the next levels to the upside here for the Dow Jones is to come back and test target 1 there at 339.34. Obviously you're going to have some resistance at 338 where the 200 EMA and SMA are at. So the HSI did cross the midline. Obviously the RSI was oversold, and this is why maybe have a potential support level here around 329. Above that you obviously have this level here I'd be looking at is at 342.93, gap fill as well around 344 and change, then 345.35 to complete the type 1 reaction all the way to target 2 at 345.97, where the 50 SMA is at. To the downside, if there's fear again, like I said, uncertainty in the markets coming back in, if you're not able to manage to close above the 13 EMA here, you could come back and retest XA here at 329.34. Obviously there is some support there, but losing that, you'd come down here to potentially gap fill around 322 and change, and then have hop there at 321.47. If we go over to the weekly, you generated a potential hanging man there off of increase in volume. So you did get the 921 crossover to the downside on the weekly. So it's this key level here to see if this is actually going to be a reversal candle or not. But it's too early to tell. So definitely keep an eye out on the Dow Jones. So jumping over to IWM here. So IWM had a lot of patterns going on here, but bear with me. We're going to be looking at the ABCD pattern right now. So I'm going to hide the TTH indicator for now. So what can we expect here for IWM? You still have a death cross approaching on the SMAs here for IWM. Obviously during the week you did come down as low as 169.09, and obviously on Friday you managed to close above hop there at 172.49. The HSI, it's looked like it wants to test that midline, so it's going to be interesting to see if it actually rejects that midline. If it rejects that midline, I'd be looking at a potential 100% retracement of this bat pattern, which would be at around 167.46. So you do have that death cross approaching. Obviously to the upside, you definitely want to reclaim some levels here, get above 174, and then the 21 EMA at 177, and maybe you can come complete the type 1 reaction to target 1 all the way to 183.64, and then at best 189.41. If we jump over to the weekly, I'm going to bring TTH indicator here, because you do have this dragon pattern, this white swan pattern, where this looks like the longest bear flag I've seen on the weekly, right? You had a couple, 1 touch point, 2 touch point, 3 touch, like that's a triple top, or this can come back for a triple bottom. We don't know yet, it's too early to tell. But obviously on the weekly, you did have that 2050 crossover to the downside. Obviously if you lose the levels it's currently holding, you can come down to CD there at 162.78, and there is a gap fill all the way to 156. So definitely keep an eye out on IWM. For the most part, the chart doesn't look great, so you definitely, if this is going to shift in momentum here, you definitely want to break above 180 and then 183. So definitely keep an eye on IWM. Jumping over to XLF here. So XLF does have a ABCD pattern here, a bullish ABCD pattern on the daily. Obviously at the completion of point D, it did not go for that type 1 reaction, and you actually came back down below hop and you almost managed to fill the gap here but failed to do so. The gap still gets filled at 32.17. We did generate 2 HSI dots confirming that a potential reversal is incoming. So what can we expect here? If there's more upside, because it did come back down pretty low, below the RSI, the HSI now is crossing above the midline, which can indicate maybe a type 1 reaction could be incoming up to 33.91, and for the best case scenario it would be 34.50. Right now you are invalidating, or it could have already happened. You had that death cross, which, you know, obviously sometimes these indicators could be lagging indicators, and that death cross could have happened just on this move down, right? So definitely keep an eye on on the financial sector, as some of these bank stocks on their charts, at least on their macro charts, don't look great. There's some that have head and shoulders and just bearish patterns on the chart. So on the weekly, you do have this potential reversal candle, but you did test the 200. You actually went below the 200 EMA and SMA there. So this could be an indicator right now potentially that a reversal is incoming, or maybe some consolidation as we await data. So definitely keep an eye out on the financial sector. Jumping over to XLE here, the energy sector. So obviously the energy sector was kind of overbought, and you did manage to come back to do the type 1 reaction all the way below target 1. Target 1 was at 85.73. You did come down to test the 200 and fell below it, and managed to close above it on Friday. So what can we expect here? Obviously the HSI was a bit oversold, and right now you are maybe flipping for that upside to generate that HSI back up to the upside. So if that is the case, you definitely want to see if you can get that gap fill there around 87.68, and above that you can come back for a type 2 return to potentially all the way up to hop. So you have XA there at 90.57 and then 95.60. So that HSI dot is maybe confirming that reversal is incoming, and obviously the energy sector moving back up to create higher highs could be a little bit of bad for the markets, as you know, gases increase, everything's getting a little expensive. So we'll see if the energy sector is due for a push back up, because you had a very bearish close on the weekly, right? So you did manage to go to BC there, but it did find support. It absorbed that all the way back up, just slightly below the 50 SMA here. So we'll see what the energy sector has to offer this week, because if it does climb back up the same way it came back down this week, could also push back up, right? I think crude oil future barrels are at right now 86, and it went as high as, I believe, 94, 95. And just basically get a $10 move to the downside, you can quickly recover that as well. So we'll definitely see what the energy sector has left for us. Jumping over to Apple here. So Apple, obviously off of this reversal candle, managed to hold above the 200 EMA, and you came back up to terminal bar here at 177.35. So this is a make or break situation, in my opinion, for Apple, harmonically speaking. As you could tell, this level here where it did generate point C here off of the bullish shark pattern, you kind of had a little bit of chop here. You came back down below that to almost test hop, and you managed to break above the terminal bar back here in August, and you created this type 1 reaction all the way to target 1. And we're actually obviously during September here, you had some chop at this terminal bar again. You broke below it and then tried to reclaim it, and then created a lower low. So again, we're approaching the terminal bars. It's a very important level here, in my opinion. If you're able to hold above the terminal bar, which you did close above on Friday, because the Friday close was at 177.49. Terminal bar is at 177.35. So in my opinion, you definitely want to hold that terminal bar, create a higher high. Maybe you test the 50 SMA there, or 179, 180, fill the gap there at 181, and reclaim all these levels here at 182.94, 184, and then 188, obviously where that type 1 reaction is, or that target 1 is at, right? The HSI, unfortunately, it looks like it's probably it's reaching that overbought condition, and that could maybe take it all the way up to, like I said, where it's at right now, all the way maybe to the entrance of the gap, where you might reverse back down again. So you could have a situation where you test that entrance of the gap, reject there, come back and find support around the terminal bar, consolidate, and then find support, and then continue making a higher high. So right now you still, in my opinion, have not broken the downtrend from the most recent high here. you're at above the 382. You're knocking on the 50% retracement of that wave here. So that swing. So we'll see if there's more continuation on Apple. Obviously, Apple pushing up like this could also help the market. If we go off the weekly close here, Apple did generate this hanging man, whatever you want to call it, as a reversal candle, and you had a decrease in volume, but a good candle here for that potential reversal candle that we got here off of this last weekly close. So definitely keep an eye out on Apple. Jumping over to Microsoft. So Microsoft had a very bullish close on Friday, closing above the 50 SMA here, and also reclaiming above that level there I have here at 322.29. So what can we expect here for Microsoft? The MACD is potentially shifting, saying it's shifting momentum here to the bullish case scenario. So to the upside, the next level I'd be looking at to see if it could manage to close above it would be maybe that top there here around $341 and change. As you could tell, that 50 SMA is kind of an important deal to hold and to see if it's going to continue to hold as support, because last time we lost, Microsoft lost this level. You came down here to create that low, and then back in August, and then from August all the way up to September here, you tried to go above it but failed to break above it, and you came down to create that other low. So I definitely want to see if Microsoft is going to continue pushing upwards. You definitely want to stay above the 50 SMA. On the weekly, you do have this bearish shark pattern where you did manage to hold above the 21 EMA and did climb back up to hold above support above the 90 EMA here. So next level I'd be looking at would be the 886 here from OB at 334.14. Maybe, like I said, you have that double top there. So continuation to the upside, you definitely want to break above 349.67 where the terminal bar is at, and then hop here would be at 368.74, which would be a new all-time high for Microsoft. To the downside, obviously, if you get rejected here, you could come back down for a potential to finish that type 1 reaction all the way to target 1 there at 290.11. So definitely keep an eye out on Microsoft. Jumping over to Amazon here. So Amazon had a very bullish close on Friday as well. Everything had a bullish close on Friday for the most part, but it did manage to close on an engulfing candle here, engulfing Thursday's close, which is a hanging man by definition. So what can we expect here off of the bearish bat pattern that it did generate here? The next level I'd be looking at to see would be test that BC target at 129.99. Right now you're also potentially set up for what looks like a bear flag forming, right? So in my opinion, you may be trading between 130 and the 200 EMA, or at best the 119 range there. The HSI did cross the midline, and you did generate an HSI dot, which could maybe signaling that it's a potential reversal is incoming. But to the upside, like I said, you want to reclaim 130. Entrance of the gap there is at 132, and you fill the gap there all the way up to around 135 and change. They have XA at 139 and then terminal bar at 143.63. As you could tell, this terminal bar was a level of resistance when you came back down. So to the downside, if you're not able to close above BC here, you get rejected. The next level I'd be looking for would be 122, which would be the 200 EMA, and then target 1 at 119.87 to complete that type 1 reaction. Obviously below that you have the 200 SMA at 114, then you have a gap fill right where T2 is at 105.19. On the weekly, you did generate a doji candle, so that's an indecision candle, so definitely tricky here. You do have a potential setup there for a golden cross on the weekly, but it's on that indecision candle, so very interesting to see what Amazon is going to do from here. Jumping over to Tesla here. So Tesla managed to close on Friday at 260.53. The next level I'd be looking at here for the upside for Tesla is to reclaim 263.08, and where you could quickly see that push back all the way to 276. The last time we pushed above the $263 range here, we gapped up, and then Tesla continued to push up to 276 before it met some resistance there and came back down. So if it manages to break up above 263, you have 276, the gap fill around 289, and then a psychological level around 300. If you get rejected off of 263, you can come down to test 253.80. Obviously using 253.80, you can come to the 200 EMA, and then that target 1 there at 223.85, and then that gap fill all the way down to 216. So if we look at the weekly, you had that reversal candle, you still have a bearish bat pattern. The bearish bat pattern is looking maybe like it wants to continue pushing up here, and that would be where XA is at, which would be the gap fill around 289, and then has hop there at 343.69. Losing this level, like I said, you could come back down for that target 1 there at 223.85. So definitely keep an eye on Tesla, as it is holding support here around above 250. So keep an eye out on Tesla for more continuation. Jumping over to Google here. So Google, out of the blue chips, like I've been saying, is a very strong stock. Obviously, after this HSI error was a confirmation that it was reversing, and it had just continues to create higher highs here. So what can we expect here for Google to the upside? The next level I'd be looking at is to break above 2XA here at 137.50, test 139.16 CD off the white swan, and then OPR there at 142.64. Hop has it at 143.41 off of the D crab. So if you manage to find resistance here at 137.50, you could come back down to PT1. Maybe you consolidate there and then wait for data or something that comes out where it can indicate that a higher high is incoming. But right now the HSI doesn't really signaling that a reversal is coming, and so if it continues to push, I do think that could be anywhere all the way up to Hop where it might reverse. So definitely keep an eye out on Google for more continuation. If we jump over to the weekly here, the weekly candle, reverse indecision candle, obviously that indecision candle came in bullish and came above XA here at 136.90. So this range here just has been a level of resistance. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, now 5 times that Google has not been able to break above. So definitely keep an eye out, because if it does, you can see Hop, they're calling off the bat pattern to 152. This is obviously on the weekly chart, could take some time, but either way, it's interesting to see if Google has more room to the upside. Jumping over to Meta here. So Meta, a very bullish close on Friday, and it looks like volume is increasing, like similar to Microsoft here. Microsoft also has, Meta also like Microsoft has that 50 SMA that was a level of resistance and support now. Obviously during this time you lost that support and you had some chop, false breakout to the upside, and then you just had chop here until finally Friday you had confirmation to the upside. Right now it still looks like a potential bearish flag forming as well, so it's still not out of the woods yet. I definitely want to see that break that bearish flag so you can invalidate it. Otherwise, I do think Meta could come back down to test that 50 SMA there at 298.80. So definitely keep an eye out on Meta, because just like Google, Meta is trying to hold on above this level. You also have set up here for a potential double top off of the weekly. So keep an eye out on Meta. It's very strong right now. Definitely the level it does not want to lose is that 50 SMA, but if it loses that 50 SMA, you can come down quick to 286 and then 274, and then maybe down the line test 253. So keep an eye out on Meta. Jumping over to NVDA here. So NVIDIA had a very bullish close on Friday, managed to reclaim target 451.17, which is a key level to hold. Should there be more upside on NVIDIA, definitely want to hold that level. The volume is coming in on increasing volume, so it can get really interesting again for NVIDIA. It could be very bullish again, as I don't have anything. Maybe you could argue here up to 480, but you could quickly see this go back up again to test $500 range again. If we take the Fib retracement here from the swing high, the most recent swing high to the most recent swing low, you are at the 50% retracement of that wave. So it's important to hold this level. You might just start to consolidate here, or wait for the next move. You could come back down to the downside to test 451.17. There's still a potential cup and handle playing out here, so that could start to play out now, or you could still come back down to target 1 at 432 and then 419.38. So off the weekly, you can see that it generated an HSI dot, which is indicating that a reversal or more upside is incoming on NVIDIA. So definitely keep an eye on NVIDIA, because once it gets some volume here and it starts getting bullish, you quickly can see this thing go straight up to that $500 range. So definitely keep an eye out on NVIDIA. Jumping over to Netflix here. So Netflix on the daily did manage to close above the 200 EMA. It's looking so far that the 200 SMA is support. So what can we expect here for Netflix? Obviously, you would definitely want to see if you can reclaim 390, 389 where the 21 EMA is, and then the 50 EMA around 403 and change, and then maybe see if you can reclaim ABCD here around 412. The HSI did manage to find support above the midline, so you could potentially see reversal incoming. We did have a bullish engulfing on Friday. You definitely want to maybe see the EMAs curl up a little bit more. Maybe you get a 921 crossover to the upside. But if you find resistance here, the next level you'd be looking to test would be 378, the 200 SMA at 371.85, and then 352.06, which is target 1, to complete that type 1 reaction off of the ABCD pattern on the weekly for Netflix, on the daily for Netflix, excuse me. Off of the weekly time frame here, you did generate an indecision candle. There is a 921 crossover to the downside potentially incoming, and you have a lot of targets here for the black swan. Yeah, PTT at 343. You did have that golden cross, but obviously, in my opinion, when you have a golden cross or a death cross, you want to definitely be below. In this case, this was a golden cross. You definitely wanted to have price action be above it, right? In this case, it was, but maybe it could have been a lagging indicator. It's still too early to tell. You could find support and continue pushing up. Who knows? This is an indecision candle, but if it fails, you have all these targets here to the downside. The HSI on the weekly is a bit oversold, but if you lose that, you could come back for that reversal candle, maybe at the 50 SMA, which is at 352, or all the way down to 343. So definitely keep an eye on Netflix. So jumping over to Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin did have a bullish move this week. It went as high as 28.6K. So what can we expect here? You still have this bullish bat pattern on Bitcoin. It is finding resistance at the 200 SMA for the time being. If you're able to continue pushing higher and you close above the 200 SMA, the next level to complete that scalper's dream would be at target 2 at 29.2K. Rejection off the 200 SMA, you could come back down to target 1 at 27.5. The 200 EMA there at 27K, and then you have the 50 SMA at 26.5, and then you can come back down to type 2 return to XA there at 25.5, and then hop at 23.7. If we go over to the weekly here, we have this bearish dragon pattern still at play. Obviously, the 200 SMA has been a level of resistance. You had that doji candle last week, on the last week close. Obviously, today is forming a new weekly candle. So some chop there. The 200 SMA has been resistance. So to the upside, if you break above it, this is obviously on the weekly time frame, so this could take some time to play out. BC is calling for the dragon pattern at 30.3, and then OPR at 32.7. Rejection off the 200 SMA, losing that level, also losing 27.4. Dragon pattern is calling for that type 1 reaction to target 1 there to complete the pattern at 22.8K. So definitely keep an eye out on Bitcoin. So that's it from me, guys. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday. I will be streaming tomorrow 15 minutes before the bell, so if you want to catch me live there, go over to my Twitch. The link to my Twitch is in the description box below. So having said that, hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody, and peace.